And so I loved BYU. I enjoyed it. Found it to be, could you give me that? I found it to be fascinating, and I loved being around Mormon girls. Now, I grew up in a little district. When I was born, there were 35 people who lived on the coast of Oregon that were members of the church. 35, 150-mile stretch, 50 miles wide, 35 members. By the time I was a teenager, there were 5 girls in the district that were my age. That's it. So unless I wanted to marry one of those 5 girls, that was going to be my choices. So BYU created the opportunity for me to date Mormon girls, and I thought that was amazing. In high school, I didn't date very much, partly because it was the 60s. It was free sex and free drugs, and it was just not an environment that I wanted to be in. And I just figured, why would anybody want to date me anyway? You know, who wants to date an ugly kid with no personality? So I figured nobody would date me. Although I did take out a few girls, and they said yes. And so I remember my senior year walking into the study hall and seeing all these cute girls with all these ugly guys. And I thought, what in the heck? You know, why are these cute girls with all these ugly guys? I said, I'm as ugly as any of them. Why won't they be with me? And I thought, because I didn't put myself out there. And I said, if I put myself out there, they probably would. So I said, I can't do anything now. It's spring of my senior year. Everybody knows who I am for what I am. But when I go to college, nobody knows me. I can be anything I want to be. How do they know that I wasn't the big man on campus and popular with all the girls? So I said, so when I got to BYU, I said, I am going to take girls out. I'm not going to worry about anything. And in my first 2 weeks at BYU, I went on 17 dates. Now, I didn't have any money. So the first thing I did when I got on campus, I went up to the student government office and I got a card by joining the social office that got me into all social activities for free and a date. In those days, the football games and the plays and everything were free to students. So I went to all the athletic events, I went to the plays, I went to the concerts, I went to all the social dances. In those days, they held 3 dances a week at BYU. So I would go to all those. So I went on all these dates. I spent 50 cents was the total amount I spent on those 17 dates, because one of the girls, when we got back, asked me to buy her a Twinkie out of the vending machine, and I said, I'll buy the Twinkie if you buy milk. So we shared. That was my whole, So, but all these girls said yes. Now, what I didn't understand at the time was that the average girl at BYU only got asked on 1 date a year. 1 date a year. So the fact that I was asking put these girls in a situation where nobody else is getting asked, so I'm being asked. So they all just said yes, which I thought was great. I didn't read. My thought was, I'm going to keep asking until somebody says no. Well, nobody said no, partly because they were just nice girls, and partly because most guys aren't asking them out. So I thought, this is so cool. So, I went out with the homecoming queen. I went out with the Belle of the Y. I went out with a girl that was on the cover of 17 magazine. I went out with Miss Nevada. I went out with Miss Oregon. But I decided, after a semester, this is silly. This is silly that a lot of these were pretty shallow. I found that a girl who was pretty as she was growing up got by on her looks often, not always, but a lot, got by on her looks. She didn't develop character and spirit and as much as a girl who didn't have everything handed to her on a plate. And I realized that a girl that had to go and develop her own character and develop her own intellect and develop athletic and different kind of skills, and then blooms at 18 or 19 and becomes, a pretty young lady as she matures, she has everything. She's got all of the capabilities. She's developed all these wonderful characteristics, and on top of that, she's pretty. So I started looking for those girls. And that's, in the end, who I married. I married a Renaissance woman who tremendous capability, smarter than me and better than me in almost everything, and was a lovely, beautiful girl at the time. So those are, but that was kind of my dating, and then I switched and I didn't date anymore the way that I had that first semester, and I felt much better about that.